While I'm writing this letter, I don't really know what I should write. I mean that I'm not sure if I'm going to wake up tomorrow, so I can't decide if it should become a sort of my testament, my final goodbye to everyone I knew, whether they're going to believe what happened to me or not. On second thought, if I survive and someone finds this letter, let's just say, well, they won't think of me as they did before. Nothing is certain for me at the moment, and I'm writing all this just to get rid of my burden, something that devours me from the inside since my childhood years. It started when I was 8, or maybe 9. I can't even be certain about that. The thing is that there was a boy I used to play with. He lived just across the street from us. One Sunday morning, I had to meet him, but he never came. I went over to his home and rang the door. Nobody answered me. His apartment was empty. I never found out what happened to him and his family. My parents told me his dad got a new job and they moved away. I'd never believed it, and I don't believe it now. Such things don't happen so fast, and he would tell me about their relocation. The worst thing is that even these days, in the era of social networks, I can't find any traces of my friend. He's gone, just disappeared into thin air. Soon after that, a weird thing happened. I entered my grandmother's room and she said something I would never forget. "The Black Hand took him," she almost whispered, as if she didn't want anyone but me to hear those words. "What is it?" I asked, feeling disturbance twinging in my body. "It flies by night, enters the open windows, strangles the grown-ups and takes away the child," she said in her trembling, weak voice. "Where does it take him?" I asked. She never answered my question. You see, my grandmother didn't feel good at the time. The following year she would pass away, and her death reminded me of these words once again. I spent years watching my window to be closed, even in the summer nights. Then the heat was absolutely unbearable. My fear grew more and more persistent because, although I had nothing to prove the things she told me about existed, I had no proof of its non-existence either. I lived in a prison of uncertainty. I did try to talk to my parents, but whenever I mentioned the Black Hand, they would simply tell me it doesn't exist, just an old legend. When I grew up, I finally succeeded to break free from that constant anxiety. I've heard the legend of the Black Hand all around Hugton, and for some time I could only laugh at my childhood fear. There are a lot of studies on this myth, and although nobody discovered how terrifying the image was conceived, all the researchers agreed about the era in which it was conceived. Prior and during the Second World War, a lot of people in Hugton disappeared without a trace. There was something different about those people, something unseen by a child's eye. Everyone knew where and why they had disappeared, but nobody dared to talk about it, especially to their children. The story about the window invading creature was born. It served a fine apolitical explanation of all the weird things going on, and also a good warning to the children to avoid the stranger and remember locking doors at night. My grandmother grew exactly in that time, and she clearly knew the legend as a child. Perhaps it was some eerie trick of the mind that made her remember the story exactly at the time I was dealing with my friend's disappearance. As I've already said, I stopped believing in the Black Hand many years ago, and I don't know what happened to that boy, and I don't know if I'll ever find out. I tried not to think about that. I think it's just my feeling of insecurity. Moving into the dorm after entering the Hugton University was somewhat unpleasant for me. Probably just a lack of privacy. I got used to that at home. No, my roommate's nice to me, and I would even say that I quickly accustomed to this new life. Everything changed when I heard slapping out the window. I couldn't fall asleep, so I paid attention to the noise. Some bird was my first thought, or maybe a bat. They're pretty common around here, but soon afterwards, the noise started to sound like a human hand. From the slapping, it grew into knocking. That's right, it was as if someone was knocking with a fist in my window. This is where I start to feel uneasy. I got up and, trying not to disturb my roommate, slowly walked towards the window. Looking outside, I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black, and I needed some light. I couldn't turn the lights on, that would wake my roommate up, so I took out my cell phone and tried to use its light. The knocking started to quiet down. As soon as I brought some light, nothing could be heard at all. I lay in my bed confused confused and frightened. My childhood fears woke up, but I couldn't let them take over me. After some tossing and turning, I decided to check the window again, just in case. For a few minutes, I was staring into the darkness. I wanted to know that it was nothing, no black hand, at least I dared to do it. I opened the window. Yesterday morning, I woke up late. I terribly overslept, missing some of my course. However, it brought out other things to worry about. The window was closed. I presume my roommate had done it before going out. He never came back, and he still doesn't answer the phone. I worried about him, and so did the others. Some say he left the college and moved out of the city with his girlfriend. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But tonight, I can't be sure. I'm not a child. I don't believe in silly stories. I'm not superstitious, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid because I'm alone. And nobody can tell me that my fears have no ground. I've heard a knocking on my window, but tonight I'm going to sleep with my window open. I just want to be sure.